One of the things that always bothered me about both the way Justin Trudeau talked about the trucker convoy and the way the regime media did is they called it an illegal occupation or an illegal protest. They used the word illegal to describe the entire manifestation of people, but that's actually not true. There's no such thing as deeming a protest illegal. I suppose you could read the Riot Act and say anyone in this area is guilty if they don't immediately disperse of a crime. I mean, I suppose that's one way to deem a protest illegal, but that didn't happen. The Emergencies Act, when it was invoked, specifically excluded peaceful protests. In fact, that was an essential part of both the Emergencies Act and its invocation. So whenever people said the truckers were illegal, that was a lie. In the case of the media, they might just simply not have known and they went along with the flow. But when the government did it, they absolutely knew what they were saying was false. And the reason I say that is that police, especially the interim police chief in the city of Ottawa, he tried to terrify ordinary Canadians into not donating towards the truckers. You may recall there was a large Give, Send, Go donation crowdfund. $10 million was raised. Under political pressure, they froze those funds. They briefly threatened to donate it to causes of their own choosing before they finally refunded them. Then Give, Send, Go, a U.S.-based, Christian-based fundraising engine, raised $12 million, and that was hit with an order as well by Ontario courts. And the trouble is, the list of names on the Give, Send, Go donation was hacked and leaked, a criminal act. In fact, there was a hacker who boasted about it online with some proof. Take a look at this.
Nothing scares me. Nothing. Yes, I doxed the truckers. I did it. It was me. I hacked Give, Send, Go, baby. And I do it again. I do it 100 times. I did it. I did it. Come at me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to me, huh? I hacked Epic Hosting! I hacked Parler! I hacked Gab! I hacked Truth Social! I hacked Go! Give, Send, Go! I don't care! You can literally put my name into the news tab on Google, and you can find everything I've done. I am literally in every mainstream media publication for the things that I do. I'm not an unknown actor. I'm literally a famous fucking cyber terrorist. And you think that you can scare me?
Well, there's no way that hacker would be able to boast about a hack and claim he had the approval of police and simply not be arrested if it weren't true. And it dovetails with the threats by Ottawa's police chief at the time to hunt down anyone who dared to give money to the truckers. Here's that odious, odious clip of a disgraceful cop. Take a look at this.
As I indicated earlier, we will have the opportunity to review all of those files. There are complaint mechanisms for people to enter into if they feel that there is excessive use of force by members of our police service. What I will also say is we have been here for 3 weeks. I have been at this podium for the last 5 days, imploring people to leave, asking them to get out of our streets. This occupation is over. We have advised them that if they peacefully leave, they may go home. That still exists. We also indicated that we would escalate and forcefully remove people from the streets if they did not comply. Some of that is what you're seeing. So I will stand here today again and say, this demonstration is over. Go home. If you don't go home, we will remove you from the streets.
Well, wouldn't you know it, in the hacked list of thousands of donors was one police officer himself, Constable Michael Briscoe of Windsor. He donated $50 to the peaceful protest, a legal protest. He did so privately. He did so lawfully. but he was targeted by his police force. He was charged with discreditable conduct. And we're here to talk to his lawyer who's fighting for him. James Manson of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms joins us now via Skype. James, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. Did I accurately tell the story of Constable Briscoe? He's just an ordinary guy, donated $50 on one of these completely legal crowd funds to a completely legal protest. And yet for 2 years now, he's been prosecuted by his own police force. Is that right?
That is right, Ezra. Thanks again for having me on the show here today. Michael Briscoe is one of several police officers who were, I guess, targeted because they gave money to the Freedom Convoy protests. And so what basically happened was, as you said a few minutes ago, Ezra, somebody hacked into the Give, Send, Go database, illegally, of course, and they found this donor information and they put it on the internet somewhere. What happened apparently was the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police, somehow got themselves this information. And what happened apparently was they began to contact police forces around the province, among them the Windsor Police Service. That's where Michael Briscoe was a police officer, still is a police officer. And they said to, police organizations like Windsor Police, they said, hey, we have this name here and it looks like there's a Michael Briscoe that's on your police force, so maybe you might want to investigate this. And so they did. And so what happens, just so that the viewers understand here, is that number one, Ezra, it is, as you say, totally legal and proper for a police officer to donate to a political cause. Now, Constable Briscoe in this case was on leave. He was on unpaid leave. Why? He didn't want to take the COVID vaccine, and so they put him on unpaid leave. And while he was on unpaid leave, of course, the convoy came to Ottawa and he was very interested. He had nothing else to do at that point. So he was motivated to donate $50. And so he gave that through the online web portal, whatever you do. And the regulation says that you can do that. Sorry, this is the regulations under the Police Services Act. This is the law that governs what police do in Ontario. So anyways, the regulations say that you can donate as a police officer as long as you don't donate it as the officer. So it can be Michael Briscoe, but not Officer Michael Briscoe. Right. So ultimately what happened was he did that. And
he did which?
Michael Briscoe.
He donated in his own name or as a cop? Which did he do?
In his own name. That's right.
Okay, yes. So he didn't lend any authority to this. He didn't claim this was a police activity on his part. He was on leave anyways.
Correct.
So they charged him, I understand, with discreditable conduct. Is that right?
Right. So what happened to them then was the OPP, got this information. They funneled it somehow to the Windsor Police Service. Then it gets transferred to an investigating officer. In this case, her name was Sergeant Leah McFadden. Sergeant McFadden then goes into an investigation phase. And what she does is she downloads and she looks at 20 or so newspaper articles. And these newspaper articles are the ones that we all remember from back in the day when Chief of Police Slowly in Ottawa and Premier Ford, Prime Minister Trudeau, all these official people were calling the protests illegal. Some people referred to it as a siege. Other people referred to it as lawless behavior, things like that. None of that was true. Ezra, I totally agree with you in what you said a few minutes ago. You can't just deem something to be illegal in this province if you're a public official. That's called tyranny. We don't have tyranny in this province. Maybe a judge could do it by making an order if somebody actually asks the judge to do so. Perhaps Parliament itself could declare something illegal by law. Otherwise, you're talking about maybe the Riot Act, as you said as well. None of that happened, of course. So there was no declaration of illegal activity. There still hasn't been at all in this province. So anyway, Sergeant McFadden, she reads these articles and she says, well, good enough for me. Everybody is claiming that this is an illegal protest, therefore it's illegal. Therefore, Michael Briscoe arguably donated money to an illegal activity, period. That was the extent of her investigation. And so then what she was allowed to do, Ezra, is she was allowed to drag Constable Briscoe into an interview on the record, and he did not have the ability to refuse questions. You have to answer the questions when you're in an interview for disciplinary purposes. The reason that you don't have the right to remain silent as you do in a criminal context is because this wasn't a criminal issue. He wasn't being charged criminally. He was being charged with, discreditable conduct under the code of conduct for police officers. That's just a disciplinary hearing that could maybe, cost you your job or something, but it's not going to land you in jail. So there is no right to remain silent, if you will. So he had to answer the questions. The only reason she knew about all this is because she downloaded, because the OPP, downloaded the illegally hacked information.
That sounds like discreditable conduct to me. I think whoever downloaded it in the OPP should face discreditable conduct. And maybe Officer McFadden, her conduct was discreditable for using stolen private information. I'd like to file a complaint against Officer McFadden.